Hey guys, welcome back to another issue of comiXalliance. This will be issue number 3, and we'll be talking about the formats of reading comic books and the pros and cons and what our preferred takes are on it, and also the collecting aspects of the different formats that are available. So I'm Chris, and this
I'm
is,
Joe.
and we'll go ahead and get started. So well, first off, we're going to be talking about the reading aspects of the single issues and our pros and cons, and if we prefer that over the other formats. So, for my take on reading single issues, it's really easy to read single issues just because they're very light, real easy to read. Here's an example of a floppy right here. That's another name for single issues. It's very easy and light to carry and read, but also easy to get damaged if you don't take care of it properly. So usually I like to what they say, bag and board the single issues in order for it to keep it as pristine as possible. There's a method of different ways to really keep that well protected, but I do love reading single issues. They're very fun to read, but the only thing that I don't like about it is, like I said, it's easy to get damaged, and there's usually a ton of ads in it. So that's my take on that's my take for reading single issues. So back
So
to you, Jeff.
my take on single issues, I happen to love single issues. I know it's a little more expensive in the long run with them, which I'll get into in a minute with the collecting side of it. But I like them because it's just a few bucks up front. It doesn't take a big investment to be able to start a series. There's times where you'll see something that looks interesting and you're like, hey, what's $4? If the first issue sucks, I only wasted $4. It's not a big investment. Kind of like and I'm not saying this sucks, so don't get bummed out when I say this. I'm not a big fan of Saga. I got it as a recommendation from you. I tried reading it and I can't get into it. I tried, I look at it when I'm like going through my stuff and I just like kind of sigh whenever I look at it. To be fair, I haven't finished the trade, but that's a story for later. But so uh that's why I like single issues, is because it's a really short like invest or a really small investment into getting into a new series. Plus, like you said, the lightweight and the convenience factor of being able to just pick up one or two and carry them, and it's not too much to lug around. I take some to work with me. I take trade. Well, actually, I'm sorry. I take trades to work with me because those are lightweight as well. But I can always grab single issues and take them work with me and just leave them in the bags and boards and sit there and read them on my break. And it's only what on average like 32 pages, so it's also not a big time investment going from book to book. So
Yeah,
that's
I definitely agree with that. Like when it comes to single issues, someone could just get into a new series, and if they don't like it, they can drop it off and not continue collecting it. And also, if they do end up liking it, then they could kind of gauge whether they want to continue the series issue by issue versus collecting like a huge chunk and hoping that they'll end up liking it.
which good example is I made that mistake with Immortal Hulk. Instead of just starting with like a single issue, I grabbed a
Yeah,
trade. Like I waited and waited, grabbed the trade,
right.
and give me all the hate you want. Not you, but other people. I'm not a
Yeah,
fan of Immortal Hulk. Um, but I spent almost $20 on a trade paperback. I ended up not really caring for. Read the whole thing. You read it at the bar. We talked about that one. I think it may have been our last issue, right? Or the one
yeah.
before. We talked about a little bit. Yeah, just not a fan, but that was like a sort of a money sink. I threw a little more at it than I could have just. Hell, wouldn't even have to buy issue number one. I probably could have just found it on a comiXology, and
Right,
read it,
right.
for either free or like $3. And
Yeah.
decided if it was worth investing from that point. So I really always go with single issues when there's a new series uh, that I know nothing about. If something you've read or something, one of the people I know, like through say like the comics podcast, like I would just ask them, or if
Yeah,
they like throw something out. If it's not like a recommendation from something I've heard like multiple people talk about, I
right.
just always try to go single issue. Just always try to look forward to that because I'd rather throw $4 away than throw, 20, 30, $40, depending on what kind of edition's available.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. So the next segment that we'll be going into for single issues is the collecting aspect of it. So for me, single issues is probably the most fun way of collecting comic books. It's the way people have done it since, I don't know, like the 60s, as far back as what, the 60s, 70s, and whatnot, on and on. And the whole reason for that is because it's still like the money up front is very, very small to invest in to get started. And you get a you pretty much get this single, almost like a single card stock. It's 32 pages, but it's like, you can take this and post it on your wall. It doesn't take up much space when you collect a single issue, obviously, unless you get like 100 of them. And at that point you need a short box for it. But the collecting aspect for it, it's great because they have these multiple amazing covers for the same book. So you're kind of like collecting an art piece at that point, and just wanting to get all the different variations of the artwork for that single issue or that single book. And also hunting for certain issues in the wild could be really fun. It's kind of like finding a needle in the haystack or a gold piece in a mine, where you find that one issue that's either worth a lot of money, or you're trying to complete a whole run or a set of a story, and you find it, and you feel like no one's found it so far, and you're the lucky one that found that one issue. That actually brings me a lot of joy when I find stuff like that, or if I'm looking for a specific series and I find the whole series at a comic shop and no one's grabbed that, and I feel super excited when that happens, because this is such an amazing series. How come like no one has ever or how is all of this stuff here still? It's great. One example that I could show you from or that I can tell you from experience is the Ice Cream Man issues. I know they became really popular last year, and people have been scooping them up. And
Scooping up the ice cream man.
yeah, exactly. I didn't see that pun, but you got it right there. But yeah, I went to a comic shop and I was asking them, "Hey, do you guys have any Ice Cream Man comics?" And he told me like, "Oh no, I don't think so. It might be sold out." But I went digging in their back bins, and sure enough, I found, I believe, issue 9 or 10, all the way up until 18 or 19. Same thing with the Gideon Falls issues. I probably found like the first, well, not the first, but like a total of 20 issues out of 27.
Nice.
So it was really great. So the thrill of the hunt and just collecting the different variant covers, the special editions and whatnot, is very ideal for collecting.
Yeah. So my take on collecting single issues, I love it. I'm borderline obsessed with it. We talked about double dipping last issue. I'm notorious for that. Triple dipping sometimes, quadruple dipping in covers. Like I buy multiples of the same covers every now and then.
For the art, right?
Yeah, for some, like I've mentioned before, I like to have reading issues of things. So sometimes I'll
Yeah,
have, a main cover that I don't open, and then I have a main cover that I open and read, but then I keep that main unopened main cover with all the other variants. And I like to just have everything nice, pristine, untouched, or barely touched, because somebody's got to put them in the bagging board. It's just something like a way I've always been with stuff. I just like to keep things in the best possible condition. I don't like to risk like damaging my books, which is why I also don't fill my boxes up. But the downside to collecting single issues, which I mentioned the positive sides as far as reading, the downside is it fills up a lot of space very fast. I find myself running out of room to put boxes, and yeah, it's only getting worse from here. It's just, give it another year and I'm gonna have to probably run out of storage, just to keep my comics. It's stupid, but I love it. But, that's a real fun side, and like you said, the thrill of the hunt with it, just going and looking and digging through like dollar bins to see. Like there's a shop up the street from me that has one of the most amazing dollar bins I've ever seen. I've gone in there and I've dropped like $30 on quality comics in their dollar bin.
Nice,
Uh, yeah, it's specifically Metropolis is what I'm talking about. They have
nice.
hands down the best. Like that guy does not throw just like, obviously, like there's some junk because that's kind of what a dollar bin is. It's for people who just want
Yeah,
some quick stuff to read and kind of dig through. But he throws good stuff in there and it makes you want to dig through the dollar bin end to end. And I do every now and then. It's been a while, but I find myself like checking it out every now and then. And
yeah,
so you can amass like a massive collection. You can find some missing pieces to the collection there. And I just love that
yeah,
part of it. Being able
yeah,
to just have like a whole run of like 20 something and you're missing that one issue. And when you find it, it's just such a good feeling to know that you don't have to worry about it anymore. Hell, even when it's
yeah,
like a 5 issue run and you're missing that like number 3, like it sucks because you're like, cool, I can't read
yeah,
it now because I'm
yeah,
missing like the issue in the middle. But
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
and then you find it and you're just like, this is awesome. So for reading purposes and just like having like a nice collection, floppies are definitely by far my favorite, but they can also, I feel like, be the worst at the same time just because of the space, and in the long run
Yeah,
the money is
yeah,
absolutely insane how much you
yeah.
spend.
Because honestly, you have to invest a little more. Because if you have more than I want to say at least like 20, 25 issues, at that point you easily need to keep them stored somewhere. Most people that do collect comic books are gonna end up buying or paying for bag and boards.
Yeah.
So usually the shops, I think a long time ago it kind of came with the comic book. You didn't have to pay extra for it. So nowadays, certain shops are charging for it, just to cover overhead and the increasing prices for leasing a location for a comic book store. So they have to really I forget the term for it, but like uh, basically to charge people to in order to stay afloat. Um, so you could either do that, or you could tell the shops not to give you a bag and board, and you can buy it in bulk. That way, you kind of save a little more money if you do it that way. And on top of that, if you have about 20 to 25 issues, and you don't have a safe space where it won't fall or get stepped on and whatnot. Usually, people end up buying storage boxes or short boxes in order to keep them safe from stuff like that.
So
But like Joe said, the collecting aspect of single issues is probably the most fun.
something I actually want to bring up, kind of a sidebar to this. It's kind of related, kind of not related, because it has to do with the idea of collecting floppies. What's your take on shops who increase prices on day one releases? I understand the idea of like a 1 in 100 and the rarity of it, but that
Yeah,
cover price still says like 3.99, 4.99,
yeah, yeah.
and that bums a lot of people out. And
It does. Yeah,
sometimes you'll see that 4.99 price tag, on the cover, and then there's another tag that the shop put on that's like $80, $40.
yeah.
What's your personal take on that? And then I'll go over mine
Uh,
after.
for me, my personal take is it's I'd say it's completely fair. It's the shop's choice to decide whether they want to sell it at that price point or not. And and sorry, did I get cut off or not?
No, your camera just shut off, but I can
Oh,
still
okay.
hear you.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think it's completely fair for shops to price whatever they want for their comic books, because depending on the overhead that they need to cover or employees that they need to pay, it's a business. They have to be able to cover that. What I don't like is is if they're basing off their comic book prices for certain issues or variants and whatnot through eBay and going through that. And then if you obviously see the eBay prices dropping, and they don't, follow up with the current price on that book, if you see a book for on eBay averaging about like $50, and they don't want to match it or even give a discount to what the original high price was. Like, for example, if the original price first release was going for 100, and then it drops down to 50 the next week, and they want to keep it 200, well, obviously I'm not gonna buy that. Or it's kind of like not like a disrespect issue when it comes to pricing, but I feel like I wouldn't want to support that shop if they're not willing to kind of like make it fair for the
Like
buyer.
fluctuate with market value.
Yeah, exactly. Because I've found myself finding a lot of good variant issues or certain issues that are not readily available at certain shops, and their prices are just way too much. So I don't find myself going back there anymore, even though they have the issues that I'm looking for. I don't find myself wanting to go back there. So it has to have like a good balance between having good prices but also fair prices. Like for example, at Amazing Comics, I saw one of the Berserker 1 out of 50. She was selling it for about 20-25 bucks, and then I found another shop that was selling it for 40 the same day. So
Yeah,
obviously I'm going to go to the cheaper shop, or
of
the shop
course.
that has, yeah, which is my home shop, which is great. So I don't mind paying an extra 20 bucks compared to its cover price, which is $5.
For sure. So
Yeah, so that's my take on it.
my take kind of more or less the same as you.
Mhm.
Just completely agree with the fact that it's their shop. It's they get to make the decisions on things like this and the rarity. I do
Yeah,
definitely appreciate it when some shops don't mark the prices up.
yeah,
One of my favorite shops does that, and that actually has nothing to do with whether they're one of my favorite shops.
yeah,
It's just an added bonus to going there. And
yeah, that's actually
so
great.
yeah, that's Undercity in Whittier. I love that place, and
Yeah,
the fact that they don't mark their price up makes it even better.
yeah. The
But
only thing
and
I think the only thing with that is it is harder for them to keep those variants or different covered issues, just because since they are cover price, anyone could get them. It's
well, they
it's like
do like a dibs sort of thing. Like if you let them know ahead of time that you're interested in it, if nobody else has requested
has
it,
claimed it.
you get it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
there
good.
you go. It's like a claim kind of thing, and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
don't let people call in and just be like, "Hey, I want like, the 1 in 25 on this, and this." You
yeah.
can't call like six things. Like I asked for two, and they were like,
Uh,
"Okay, well, like somebody else might want that." Like, and I was like, "Hey, no problem." Like, I'm thankful that you're letting me take one. The fact that like I
right.
was able to get that ahead, of everybody else.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's cool that they don't, let everybody do that, and they also don't mark
Yeah,
it up. So everything's kind of fair to people as long as you get the jump on it. It's like
yeah.
once something's announced, just
Yeah,
I call them, and you know since I have a pool there, that's where like I'd say 90% of my pool list is. I have one at another shop because
yeah,
I also go there, so I keep
yeah.
some stuff at each shop. I know it's probably not the
Nice, nice.
smartest thing. Yeah, we have talked about that a little bit, but anyway, yeah. So in the end, no, I think it's completely fair that shops do that, even if they switch to that model to make a little extra money. It wouldn't bother me. I'd still buy the variants from them there.
Yeah,
It's
same.
just
Yeah, I
nice
got
that.
lucky. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go on. No, go on.
Yeah, I got lucky too. When I remember asking for the last Ronin and all the variants that will come out for that first issue. I got lucky asking for it way early on, and my shop was able to get me the first issue, the 1 in 10, and I think the 1 in 25.
Yeah.
So that they were able to set that aside for me without without being like a first come first serve basis
Yeah.
before after it comes out.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Okay. So that aside, I just wanted to throw it in there because it made me think about, there's
yeah,
more to collecting than just like, do you prefer this issue or, you know, like floppies or omnis or whatever, like, because then there's also
right.
the price point of it of, things get marked up. And,
Yeah,
I've heard people complain that shops shouldn't mark anything up because what cover price says. And I think that's completely wrong.
yeah, I got
They
it.
gotta, like, those are incentive covers for them ordering,
Hmm.
100 or, 150 or 200, whatever,
Yeah,
of certain issues. So they only get a couple of those, and there's
yeah,
only like so many, in even your city or your state, within like a reasonable distance. So yeah, expect to pay a little more and just appreciate that your shop, went out of their way to
has it.
order enough to have, yeah, to
Yeah,
get them. So that's my take. So we can jump on to
awesome.
the next thing.
All right, cool. The next one that we'll be going over will be the digital aspect for reading. So with reading digital comics, I actually love reading digital comics, just because it's probably the most convenient for the most, or I want to say like I don't know 75% for conveniency, just because it's readily available on your phone or computer. If you have it on your phone through comiXalliance is one example of an app. There's also I think it's
Marvel Unlimited.
DC Marvel
Oh yeah,
Unlimited, and what was the DC one?
I
DC
don't remember the
Universe, or
that sounds about
they have,
right.
yeah, they have an they each publisher basically has an app where you could read their comics and read them online wherever you go. You can buy their single issues or their collected editions, kind of like trade paperbacks, where it has a collection of a certain number of issues together. And also, if you have comiXology through Amazon Prime, you have a decent amount of free unlimited comic books through there, where you could kind of read the few volumes or few issues of a series, and then decide whether you want to continue buying them digitally. So the the I think the cons for reading digital comics is that obviously you need electricity. So if your phone dies, then you can't read your comics. So
Yeah.
uh, that's one thing. And also, uh, if you didn't download your comics, or if you didn't buy them and you're kind of like essentially streaming your comics and you don't have Wi-Fi, then you can't get it. It won't be readily available unless you have it downloaded in your collection. So um, so that's my take for reading digitally.
So for me, overall, like as a whole, I don't like it. I'm not a digital person. I don't like my video games digital. I don't like, you know, my movies digital. I don't like my
Yeah,
comics digital. I'm a big fan of physical media, always have been, and I'm probably always going to be. No, with that being said, I do have some digital stuff. Like my entire Xbox
mm,
collection is digital, with the exception of like maybe 3 games of the like couple hundred I own.
right.
There's a reason for that. We game share. Myself and Gilbert, we game share, so it makes more sense to do it that way. It's more cost
Yeah,
effective. But other than that, I try to always own physical copies of the things that I own. There's definitely a positive side to reading digital. It's kind of like what you said, with being able to like always have your library on you. It's
mm,
literally your whole comic library can be in your pocket, or a
yeah,
good portion of it.
mm,
I like that aspect of it, but I don't like the way like I have a Galaxy S10. It's not a
yeah,
tiny screen by any means, but
mm.
sometimes those word bubbles are way too small. And I don't know if it's my old eyes or or what, but sometimes I have to
Yeah,
like try to zoom in and it doesn't
yeah,
feels like it doesn't zoom in properly. And then when I'm zooming in to read a word bubble, I feel like it's kind of taking away from reading it and seeing, the image of what's going on at the same time.
yeah,
And it kind of just takes away the feeling, that you get when you're reading, off of actual paper. It's
yeah.
something
And
that
I
I just. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say that I can see that just because every application from every publisher, whether it be comiXology, Marvel Unlimited, or DC, the way they have their layouts when you read their pages is, I think, a little bit different from each other. Like, I know comiXology, when you read through it, there's a few different modes you could do. So, like, I think the standard default mode is when you tap on the screen, it goes to the next page, but then when you tap it again, it goes through each panel that has dialogue versus just, the whole page, and then you can just zoom in and read it
Yeah,
from there. You have to like kind of, see where the tap is going to guide you for the default use. But I prefer, just tapping the screen, seeing the next page, and me deciding where I want to go, like
yeah,
read it. Yeah, because it, like you said, it has a different impact when you see the entirety of the page versus seeing it like panel by panel, going in order and whatnot.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Just not a fan. I
mhm.
appreciate that it's there, and I don't think it's something that needs to go away because it's definitely it's more cost effective. Sometimes
Yeah,
those things are a
definitely.
lot cheaper.
It
You can. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, honestly, the reason why I said reading comic books digitally has so many benefits for me. It's because even though I before we get into the collecting aspect of it, it's that kind of goes hand in hand for me. Like, if I want to keep something as pristine as possible, obviously I don't want to open it so much that it might have a higher chance of getting damaged. So if I have the digital copy of whatever that comic book is or collected edition, I can just read it through there and not have to worry about taking that out all the time and damaging it.
Yeah,
And that kind of
of
goes
course.
back and forth with with us double dipping and triple dipping into stuff like that, including digital. So and the other positive thing that I've found from it is kind of you mentioning single issues, jumping into a new series and spending only a few dollars to see if you like it. Sometimes you can find it for free online, and you could take your part in it and see if that's something you want to buy physically in order to support the creators from it.
Yeah,
So I've done that so many times where I'll see something unlimited on comiXology, read a few issues. I'm like, oh man, this series is really great. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna end up. I want to buy the single issues or the trade paperbacks or collected editions and whatnot. So
yeah,
it's actually helped me find a bunch of new series to read just from that. So that's why I like
nice.
digital. Yeah,
Yeah, I can see that definitely being a bonus to it.
yeah,
So, but again, just not for me.
yeah. So
In
the next
short,
part we'll the next part we'll get into is the collecting aspect of digital comics. So for me, I completely hate collecting digital comics because of the fact that once you spend that money and it goes into your digital collection, it or what if the company takes a shit and like it's not available anymore? It's not,
yeah,
you paid all that money for that and it's not available anymore because of rights or copyright issues or any of that legal stuff.
or if
But
the app gets pulled.
yeah, exactly. Or if your phone takes a crap and you don't have a phone anymore, oh well, like where's your comic book collection now?
Yeah,
And the other thing too is the value and financial portion of it. So if you spend all this money buying digital comics, there's absolutely no way you could get your money back unless you sell your account. But yeah, they have to get access to that account if you want to sell it that way. But with physical media, you could let people borrow it. You could sell it to someone. You could
trade.
let trade it, have someone else borrow it or whatever. So the digital aspect, it's a lot more difficult to do that. If not, you can't do that. So yeah, that's my take on collecting digital.
I really don't have much to add to that. It's pretty
Hmm.
much, I think
Same
we're in
thing,
complete
right?
agreement with that. It's just
Yeah.
there's nothing to it. Like it's good for reading purposes, and like I
Hmm.
said a minute ago, carrying your whole library with you, in
Yeah.
your pocket. amazing concept, but
Hmm.
all that money you sink into it, it can be gone the next day. And people can say that about, your physical media, like, oh, what if
Hmm.
it gets stolen? What if like it gets damaged by water or fire? Like, yeah, of course,
Right, right. Hmm.
But the idea of me, say, like dropping and losing my phone is way more likely than, you know, like a pipe bursting in my house, or, a fire. And this is coming from someone who has lost everything to this,
Yeah.
as we've talked about. And you were
Hmm.
we worked together when this happened, right? And,
Yeah.
I lost everything I owned. And,
I felt so
you know,
bad when when I heard
oh,
that news, man.
oh, it was bad. But, you know, coming from someone who's dealt with this, like, I can say I've damaged more phones, due to like dropping and cracking my screens, or, whatever, like
Hmm.
losing them. Actually, I take that back. I don't think I've ever lost a phone, but I've had phones die, broken screens. Imagine trying to read a comic on a broken screen. Like, that's not gonna be fun.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
not at
oh,
all.
lost the tablet. There you go. I could have read it on
Yeah.
there, but you get my point. Uh,
Yeah.
that's far more likely to happen than the other situation. Not to say it won't
Yeah.
happen.
Hmm.
And yeah, okay, you just buy a new phone, download the app, re-log in. Okay, I get it. And it's probably
Yeah.
way cheaper to do that in the long run than having to like rebuy like all your comics.
Yeah, and I also think that it also has some things to do with environment and where you live also, because
Yep.
some places don't have any comic book shops readily available, or not even like I have a friend that lives in Alaska, and where he lives, he can't even get deliveries from Amazon. So
Damn.
so it's very difficult for him to get any comic books if he wanted. So his best bet is online
Digital.
comics.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn.
So
Can
the
you
fact
ship
that we do,
comics to them?
um, I I'm not sure. Like I haven't tried shipping anything to him yet. So
Or does he have like can you get like a PO box on the outskirts, and you can send it to
yeah,
the PO box,
that's what
and
I'm assuming.
he
Yeah,
can go pick it
whatever.
up once a month?
Yeah,
There's got to be something. Get the poor guy some comics.
I know, right? Yeah, so I do appreciate the fact that we do have that option for those cases,
Of course.
or if those extreme like weather conditions, like let's say there's a comic book issue that you can't wait to come out, like for example The Last Ronin. If you really can't wait to get to read it, and your shop is getting delayed orders or due to weather conditions and whatnot, and the issue's already out, boom, you could get it digitally.
Which I want to throw that out there, for
Mm.
anyone listening who also follows us on Instagram. Sorry I didn't do a new comic book day pickup this past week. My shop's delivery was delayed, and but when I got there, they didn't have anything. They didn't know when it was going to be there. They said that day, but I also had to come back home and do other stuff, and I couldn't guarantee that I was going to make it there. So I never got to pick up my pool. So the week coming up, the week of the 17th, yeah, this week.
Yeah,
So yeah, the
yeah,
week of the 17th on Wednesday. I'll probably be doing a slightly longer video because I'll be picking up last week's books and this week's books. So
nice.
you get a little longer video from me. It'll probably be the length of when Chris's shortest video. So it'll be like 33 minutes long.
Yeah, I could go longer.
Hey, we all know. So yeah, yeah. So sorry about that. I just wanted to apologize for that. But so back on to the topic of collecting digital. For my personal reasons, it sucks.
Yeah, and I'm pretty
I
sure there's a that small percentage of people out there that actually do like collecting
Of
digitally
course,
and
it's
having
great.
their entire, yeah, having their
It's great for
entire
those people.
collection just in your pocket. That's
Yeah,
amazing. Like
yeah,
if I
but
had thought about that like 20 years ago, I'm like, there's no way you can do that, you know?
exactly. But it's great for those people, and it's
Yeah,
awesome for like your friend who, like can't get Amazon deliveries. Like that has to suck.
yeah,
So
yeah, it does.
it's an awesome solution for someone in his case. He doesn't ever have to miss
Yeah,
an issue,
yeah,
because of weather conditions, or because, shipping delays out there, or,
hmm,
or just a lack of delay. So
yeah,
that's why I think I don't like it, but it's something very necessary for this community.
Yeah, it's
It's
definitely
something.
not our preferred way of collecting.
Yeah,
That's
it
what we're
needs to stay,
trying to say.
and it needs to
Hmm.
get perfected. It's pretty awesome for what it is now, but I can see in a couple years it might, I don't know, maybe it'll sway me to, not collecting, but maybe, picking up some more issues digitally down the line, if it gets a little bit
Right.
better. But I think it's
Awesome.
on its way.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah,
All
so
right.
that's all I
Cool.
really have to say about that.
So the next segment that we're going to jump into for reading is the trade paperback format. Um, for me, I when I started collecting comic books again back in 2006 and 2007, that was the route that I took because my friends introduced me to reading a few comic book events that was really big and happening around that time, which were Avengers Disassembled, House of M, X-Men, and Civil War. They had those three trade paperbacks readily available. It was the entirety of the comic book series, and I've never seen that format before, so that was new to me. And I looked at it. I'm like, are these how the comic books look like now? Like, where's the issues and stuff? And he would point out like, oh, it's a collected edition. It's like a trade paperback, and it has like a certain number of issues collected together. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Here, I actually have an example for it right here. If you guys are on YouTube, this is the Infinity Gauntlet trade paperback format. And this collects the entire event of Infinity Gauntlet issues number 1 through 6. So I actually love this format because it's slightly cheaper than the collecting the single issues, and it's all in one book. It's very durable. You can literally like drop it after you read it, just throw it somewhere, and it could take a beating. You can bend this in half, which I don't really
Stop.
recommend, but
Stop.
it still it still
Stop.
goes back. You
You're
bend it
killing me.
sideways diagonally, and look, it's still pretty pristine. There's no like bends on it. Imagine I just oh shit, like I messed
Fat
up.
crease.
Yeah,
Hey, wait, turn
but
that around
no,
real quick.
yeah, yeah.
Turn that around. I just want everybody watching to look at that picture and wonder why Thanos is so dummy thick.
Yeah, but yeah, this is the trade paperback format. Like I said, I love reading trade paperbacks just because if I'm if I'm collecting comic books, I love collecting the single issues, preferably. But for reading aspects, it's super light. It's still light to read it to the point where you're not going to get very tired holding the book, and it's not as flimsy as a floppy or a single issue where you might accidentally bend a page because you're I don't know the way you're flipping the pages, or if you accidentally drop it and whatnot. Um, and yeah, I believe that will be my take for trade paperbacks.
So I love reading trades. I'm a huge fan of floppies, like I've said, both from
Mhm.
both collecting and reading. But trades, like I like trades because I can binge trades,
Yes,
and
yes.
I binge the entirety of well,
Middle
Middle
West.
West, yeah, the entirety of um, why am I drawing a blank here? The Venom and Absolute Carnage series through trades recently. And then I
Yeah,
just finished, it's only 2 books, but it's the oddly enough, you're just holding that up. It's Thanos by Jeff Lemire.
nice.
The oh my god, I forgot the first one was called. What is it called?
Is it Birth of Thanos?
No, the first one, it's just the series is called Thanos, but I can't remember what the first
Mm,
book is called. But anyway, the second one is called The God Quarry. So if you find those, pick them up. They're awesome. But I just finished reading those, and it was great. Like just being able to like grab a trade, walk with to my car, toss it on my seat, drive to work, walk in the back, check it on the desk. And although I try to take care of everything I own, including like books, floppies, everything, like I try to keep things in best shape as I can. Like you showed, those things can take a beating before they even start to look worn.
yeah,
I bought a book from another shop one time. It looked brand new. Like I assumed they were selling it at the new price. I opened it and it had like a receipt from like 2 years back. This book was
Oh
damn
wow.
near pristine, but
Yeah.
they bought it from somebody used
Hmm.
and sold it as a new book. That's a
There you go.
completely different discussion on whether
Wow.
that's, acceptable or not.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
but the idea is
it does kind of like go into the thing that I explained earlier, how durable these things are.
exactly, and
Yeah.
that's why I like trades. And the thicker the
Hmm.
trade, the more durable they seem to be.
Yeah.
Except for that Hellboy Seeds of Destruction, that cover, just
Uh-huh.
looking at it wrong seems to damage the corners on it. It kind of sucks, but
Man.
it's not the normal cardstock they use for other with like the glossy cover, and I think that's
Uh,
why. But for the
I see.
most part, yeah, trades are awesome for that. Like, they always hold their shine. They're durable. Like you could bend them, toss them, whatever. And I always feel like my trades are in great shape. I don't I don't bend my pages either and break my spines.
Yeah.
So that definitely has a lot to do with it. So I love trades for that reason, for the reading aspect. Like I can flip through them like quickly. I can take my time with them.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I'm holding something so delicate. That's why I love reading trades. Plus that, and again, I just mentioned, I'm starting to feel like I'm repeating myself, but the binging side of it is fun for me.
Yeah, very fun indeed. As it also makes it a little bit easier completing runs, especially if you're a little late to the game for certain creative teams. So if you're, trying to collect, for example, like Joe, collecting Miles Morales Spider-Man, it's been taking him a while to collect. What, like you're missing the first 10 issues or something,
No, I'm
or like
missing
just missing a couple? Uh-huh.
number 6, and number 8. That's it.
Okay, so that even feels a lot more worse because you're
Yeah.
almost there, but you just can't seem to complete it
Yeah. I like
because it's so difficult to find already.
I've read all those issues because I have the trades. I mentioned that in I think one of my comic book videos,
Yeah. So
that I
there you
bought the
go. The trade
trades,
paperbacks
and
help
that
you out.
I had to buy the first trade because I had 1 through
Mm,
6. I had to buy the second trade literally just because I needed issue 8,
yeah.
but I own all the rest of the issues that were in that trade, so I had to spend the money on that. But you know what? Now
Yeah.
I don't never have to take those early issues out. I don't have to bother. They get
Yeah.
to sit there looking nice, untouched. And I could just
Yeah.
read the trades whenever I want. So I might
Oh,
actually
there you
just
go.
finish buying the trades, up to the current, so I don't have to open the other
Yeah.
ones.
Well, there you
So,
guys go. There's proof for you guys that Joe loves the double dip.
and I love Miles Morales.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's the trade paperback side for reading. So we both love that format just because the the easy availability and the comfortability of reading these.
Yep.
Um, so next up, we'll go into the collecting aspect of trade paperbacks. So for the collecting aspect of trade paperbacks, I believe it's only been recently that trade paperbacks have actually been, certain things have gone out of print, and if there's a huge story arc or run that people have, um, you know, they got all those single issues, so none of those are readily available. Their next step to getting that story is to getting it in trade paperback, and if that story is really popular, the trade paperbacks are going to get sold out. And for the people that do collect trade paperbacks, it's going to go up in value as well. So just recently, I've noticed that certain trade paperbacks, like for example, Thor: God of Thunder, done by Jason Aaron, that has been selling out, and I think the first volume is going for about anywhere between 50 to 100 bucks, I believe, just because it has the gore story, which kind of like talks about the King in Black in it, which I won't go too much into, but that's where one of the stories that Donny Cates pulled the character to create the King in Black, from what I've read. So uh, for collecting, it's probably way cheaper in terms of the amount of issues that you're getting in one trade paperback versus spending about $4 to $5 each on each comic book. Or if they're older issues like Infinity Gauntlet, you're going to be paying a lot more for those 6 issues compared to paying the cover price for this, which is $25, with the entire storyline intact in this awesome cover. So yeah, that's my take on collecting trade paperbacks.
So mine, very similar to what you have to say as well. You can amass a very large collection for relatively cheap, and they save a lot of space compared to floppies. Like,
Yeah.
not as cheap as other formats that we'll get into later, but
Hmm.
the investment's a little bit higher for those. I
Yeah.
know I said it's a lower investment for floppies initially at first,
Yeah.
just
At
getting one
front.
or
Yeah.
two. But
Hmm.
for a complete series, like I mentioned this on our last issue, I'm going to reference that quite a bit. War of the Realms, for some reason, it's a $30 trade paperback, and it's only 6 issues. I don't understand why, but
Oh man.
a lot of stories like the Middle West, trade number 1, $10. Best $10 I ever spent.
Yeah.
6 solid issues, I believe it was. $10. Like, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
The next one, 14.99. The next one, I believe, 14.99. I
Hmm.
paid what, $40 for the entirety of the Middle West run. You
Yeah,
know,
compared to how much I spent for the single issues for those. I ended up
exactly.
spending, I think close to $80
Yeah.
for the entire run.
Yeah, and trust me, I wouldn't regret that if I did. It
Yeah.
was such a good story, but
Hmm.
the reason I like trades, collecting trades for that reason is when, like, I mainly collect things that are out of print in trade, in with the exception of Absolute Carnage. It was
Yeah.
not out of print, like the single issues, but nobody wants to let those go. Like, those things are so hard to find. I guess it's technically out of print because you're not seeing any like new ones, but it's
Yeah.
not crazy expensive if you do see it. But most people don't want to let them
Yeah.
go, you
Right.
know. And I just wanted to hurry up and read it. I don't want to like buy them online and then wait, 3 weeks to get them.
Yeah.
So I just bought the trade. That one was, I think, a $30 one too, so that kind of sucked.
Yeah,
Six
I feel
issues,
like
$30.
the Marvel and DC trade paperbacks when it comes to events, just because they have a bigger creative team behind it, and it's like the big two, which is what they call for Marvel and DC.
Yeah,
But if you look for complete collections or a complete run of a indie comic, they tend to go a little bit cheaper.
yeah. Well,
Mhm.
sometimes too, when it comes to Marvel and DC, at least from what I could tell, if you buy a trade paperback like the Venoms, they're like 15.99, but it's not a
Yeah,
complete run in that single trade. War of the Realms is 6 issues. It's a complete run, start to finish. You don't need to buy anything else.
yeah,
So
exactly.
that might explain why they're $30. But when you're
Mhm.
buying, 4 or 5 trades to complete the series, they tend to charge a little bit less, which is great. But you can get, for maybe, let's just say, $100 total, you can get a run of what, maybe like 25 issues,
Yeah,
and that's not a bad price considering it takes up relatively little space compared to floppies. Like, imagine 25 floppies. Like,
yeah,
it adds up quick with space because it has, like the notes in the back, like, the commentary sometimes, like the trying to remember what they were, what it was called. There's something in some of the recent stuff I was reading that was like notes by Stan Lee. I'm sure you know what I'm
uh,
talking about. Like,
kind of like
somebody,
I believe it's called the bulletin or the afterword in a sense.
yeah, it's something like that, and it's like just old stuff that he had written, or maybe even just a few years old that gets added into these. Plus, like the ads, like all that stuff's taken out, so you're just getting the meat of the issue. So if you put like 6 floppies side by side and a trade, it's
Yeah,
going to take up a lot less space. Plus, you're not going to have to
yeah,
add bag and board on top of it.
right, exactly. And I also think the trade paperbacks, from what I've noticed, has no ads in it besides the ads for other comic books towards the end of the book. But in between the
Especially
pages, they don't.
a lot of the Marvel stuff too. One thing I do appreciate, uh, at the front, it says like start here, and it kind of shows you a road to that story. So you might be buying, the fourth book in a story that is 10 to 12 books that you might not know are directly connected, because it might have multiple authors that, like one guy wrote the initial story, and then another guy comes in and he continues that story, but it's not like a to be continued. He just picks up where that writer
Yeah.
left off, kind of like I believe Thor God of Thunder from Jason Aaron, and then
Yeah.
Donny Cates Thor. It's like it's a sequel in a sense, but it's like you could read one without the other. It's not like watching like you wouldn't want to watch Endgame and not Infinity War.
Yeah.
Not like a sequel in that sense. Like it's like X amount of years in the future where like the events that happen in this are not irrelevant, but it's like the beginning of a new arc, possibly a new event.
Yeah.
And so they on the very first page, like on the cover, on the inside, and then the inside of the back cover, they do like the road to Thanos like story. And I like that about trades too, because there have been things that I wasn't sure if it was connected or not, or how it was connected, or where it fit. And I'll just
Yeah.
flip that open and look like, oh, okay, that's where it's at. That's probably the next thing I should buy.
Yeah.
And it's introduced me into some pretty good stuff that way. So I definitely
Nice.
appreciate trades for that reason too.
Yeah. And just going over just those three formats that we've gone over so far, because when it comes to reading, my preferred way of reading is going to be either digital or trade paperbacks. That's honestly the most, and that's just from comfortability and convenience. Honestly, for
Oh
me.
yes, excuse me. I'm drinking some beer here, and it's coming up. I'm sorry for anyone who has to hear that, but comfortability wise, trades are
Mhm.
definitely one of the most. Like you could, lay down on your bed, open it,
Yeah,
like, and you don't feel like moving around like you're gonna bend your pages the way you would like a
yeah,
single issue. Oh, there have been
yeah,
times where I'm laying there and I'll be reading like say for example, like I'll forget to grab the main cover for something. So I'll be
yeah,
reading not necessarily a like a 1 in 10 or 1 in 25, but a variant that, I really love the cover of. I don't want to see something happen to it.
right,
uh, I'll be reading that because it's the only copy I have of it, and I didn't want to wait because
yeah,
I was stupid and forgot to grab the main issue or the main cover, and my dog jumps on the bed, and like I have like this mini heart attack, like oh, like no, and like I'm trying to protect it, But when
yeah,
I have my trades, like if she does that, I see her jumping, I just like grab it and just flip it closed. Then worst case, she lands on the cover and nothing happens to it,
yeah, exactly.
But
Like I
with a
said, the durability of this.
stop, stop, stop. It
As I'm
still
bending
hurts.
this book.
It still hurts. Stop. No, but with the floppy, even if I shut, the pages real quick, hell, I'd probably damage it trying to shut it,
Yeah,
like that quick,
or
let
yeah,
alone
or
if she
trying to bag
lands
and
on it.
board it again.
Yeah, I know, right? And then if she lands on it, like the thing's done.
Yeah.
That's not to say they don't have issues, like I mentioned the other day, with that compendium that fell. I think it
Oh,
was it said I was driving and it fell off the front seat and it bent the
yeah, yeah.
cover in half, and I just gave
Uh,
it to a friend of mine. I gave him a $50 compendium. I was just like, yeah, I don't want this
because you'd
now.
rather not see it.
Yeah, I don't want the thing's gonna be a permanent eyesore.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take it out to read it and just sigh and put it back on the shelf.
Yeah, and
Try to.
just from you guys, like in the audience, it's more of a collector thing. The collector side of us that really bugs us. But if we weren't like hardcore collectors when it comes to the things that we own or the things that we like to see in our collection, then we could have beat up books, and we still get the same pleasure from reading whatever story it
Exactly.
is. So
Like dog ear your pages, break your spines, do whatever
yep,
you want. Thing is, I like the trades and stuff because I don't treat my stuff like that, and it always looks nice.
yeah,
I get to do what little bit I would probably do to, any book. Like I said, walk in the back room at work and just toss it on the desk,
yeah.
you know, and it
All
won't
right,
damage it.
cool. All right, so the next format that we'll be going over is it kind of falls under the trade paperback section as well, but it's the compendiums. of comic books, and these are basically these we range from about 30 issues to over 50 issues, all in one big trade paperback.
Do you have a
Unfortunately,
compendium? I'm sorry, just to show.
no, I actually don't. I was thinking about getting one, but I don't have a compendium collection, so I don't feel like I want to collect that format because I don't have a single one. The only one that I was thinking about getting is either Invincible or Spawn, which had just came out. But they're a lot. They're more of a. I think they're a little bit smaller than a single issue floppy, maybe about a couple inches.
It
But
looks like if you cut
the
an Omni in half and made it paperback,
uh maybe
or at
like
least the
yeah,
Walking
like
Dead
about three
ones,
quarters. It's
like
about
they're
three
always,
quarters of a omnibus.
yeah, and paperback,
Yeah, and
like
paperback.
hardcover.
The great thing with them is that it collects a huge chunk of a run or a storyline that it's all compacted into one big book, and you could take 50 issues with you somewhere and read it at a comic book shop or coffee shop or once they open or a library or at school wherever you're at, and you have an entire collection readily available in one book, easy to carry. Well, I mean, if one big book is easy to carry.
If you have a
um
backpack,
yeah,
you can throw it in there and
yeah,
it's not gonna kill you to carry it.
yeah. And for the most part, I don't think I've since the spine is a trade paperback, you can bend it as far as you need to in order to read it. It's not recommended, but you can do that without breaking the spine, and without so much gutter loss. Gutter loss is basically when you open a book and you lose sections of the page because of a specific type of binding. So if you're able to open up a book and lay it flat all the way down, then you don't have gutter loss. That's what that means. So um, for reading purposes, the convenience of having an entire collection all in one book is very great. But it's also for the comfortability aspect of it. It can be very difficult depending on how you're reading it. If you're just on the couch and just laying the book flat on your arm or armrest or whatever, it's pretty easy to read. But if you're holding it and trying to carry it while reading it, that could be tiresome within like 5-10 minutes.
Definitely, they're usually pretty big. They're pretty
Yeah,
thick.
yeah. What's your take on compendiums
So
since you've owned one?
I really like the idea of compendiums because,
Mm,
like we've already mentioned, you can hold a huge amount of issues in a
yeah.
single book. It's amazing.
Mm,
You get to pay. This is again kind of a tier up from from floppies to trades, going with like the
mm,
investment value.
yeah.
Um, you now pay what looks like a little more dollar wise, but when you consider the amount
Mm,
you get a ton of it. So if you really want to
yeah.
binge, so from a reading standpoint, like you're not investing too much. It looks like a lot up front, but for the amount you're getting, you're paying damn near pennies on the dollar is what it seems.
Yeah, you
And
definitely get more bang for your buck, but
exactly.
like Joe said, you're gonna be putting more money up front, at least between anywhere between 35 to over $60.
Yeah, I'd say do it if you're committed to a series. Don't do it with something you want to just kind of test the waters with a handful of issues. You
Yeah,
know, if like you've read The Walking Dead, like say you've read a couple issues and you're like, this is awesome, buy the compendium. Don't do what I'm doing and buying the trades. It
yeah.
gets way more expensive. But we'll get into that collecting side of that in a sec. So from the reading standpoint, it's awesome. Like you could just, like I said, I love binging. You could binge the hell out of those because there's usually only a few that you have to buy. You're not buying 36 trades. You're buying like four compendiums. That's like $200.
Yeah,
And you're getting damn near a complete run here.
yeah.
And And when I say complete run, I don't mean just like a run of an arc. I mean issue number one to the final issue. For some things. Sometimes maybe there's a little bit more. I think like the Usagi Yojimbo or Yojimbo. I want to say there's
Yeah.
like 10 of them or something, like 10 compendiums or something stupid. Because I
Oh
want to
wow.
say that's a much older series. Like that's a very like long ongoing series. So there's a ton of issues.
Yeah.
But again, imagine going back and trying to collect all of that in trades, how much more money you're actually going to spend,
Yeah.
just to be able to binge. So compendiums, really good. Covers, not as durable. So
Mm,
from a reading standpoint, they're heavier, they're bulkier, and I can't throw them around like I throw my trades.
yeah. I
you
mean, you
know,
can, but then like you could hurt someone with
yeah, they're
it.
heavy, they're bulky, and they're kind of awkwardly shaped sometimes. But like
Yeah.
you said, if you're just relaxing and just kind of like laying there, sitting there, comfortable, they're really good for that. Like you could really just sit there and just lose yourself in this because there's so many issues. It doesn't stop. There's zero ads. Sometimes there's minimal breaks between like issues. Like I want to say there's some where they actually don't even separate the issues. Like it's you know what I mean? Like where
Yeah. It's
some
just
trades will have like a cover for like issue two, and
yeah.
it'll one whole page will just be dedicated to that. Whereas some of these you just keep flipping. You have no idea if you're on issue 12 or issue 24, at this
Yeah.
point, unless you start counting individual pages and you kind of have an idea. But
Yeah.
like they just keep going. Like it just doesn't stop, and it's great. Like
Yeah. Yeah. It's
you'll
great for binging for sure.
yeah, so I love that aspect of it. I don't own any more compendiums because, well, I mentioned it already. That
Yeah.
whole thing just killed my whole idea of owning compendiums after seeing that thing get destroyed so easily. It's like, nope,
Yeah.
nope. Like I don't need a collection of these things, but I definitely
Yeah.
understand the financial value and the comfortability, aspect of just being able to read and the enjoyment factor. If I own
Yeah.
them, I'd probably read a whole one in like a matter of days. So
Yeah.
that's my take
Nice.
on compendiums. From a reading, kind of jumped into the collecting side a little bit, which I can still elaborate on when you're done.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, when it comes to collecting compendiums, I am not really a big fan of it because I honestly will get a compendium for its convenience and comfortability. For collecting wise, the only time I will probably ever collect a compendium is if the uh, whatever other format that I'm trying to collect it in is not available and the price is just way off the roof. And if that's the only way I could get a chance to read it as a hard copy, if I don't want to read it digitally, I will go that route. For example, the Spawn comics. I really wanted to jump into Spawn, and I ended up collecting the deluxe editions, which we'll get into later. But they stopped printing after volume 10 or 11, I believe. And since they're not continuing that format, they just went into the compendium portion. So I'm still on the fence about trying to get that. It does collect the I can't remember the exact count, but at least like the first 50 or 56 issues of the Spawn, which is awesome.
This is the
But
original Spawn, right? Like
yeah,
not
issue one.
like some reboot or anything. Like this is the original
No,
like Todd McFarlane Spawn
yeah, original Todd
from
McFarlane Spawn.
the
I don't know
90s.
if they did anything different, like redoing colors or redoing letters and whatnot. But yeah, the compendiums are just they're good for convenience, but for a collecting aspect, it's more on the side of if it's just way too expensive to get it on another format, then I can get it in this format. They've recently started doing a few like more compendium formats for certain series, like Fables from Vertigo. I know the 16 deluxe editions or 15 or 16 hardcover deluxe editions is going for over $300 for the complete
Man,
collection. So, and that right now you could get the Fables run as a compendium on Amazon for as cheap as maybe $35-$40. I think cover price it might be either 50 or $60.
What
Um,
is what does that span? Is that the entirety of Fables, or is that just like
um,
because
for that one,
you
I think
know?
it's
Sorry,
what
go
is
on.
that?
No, go on. I'm
Uh,
sorry. I'll ask.
for that compendium, I think it's volume 1. So I think they're supposed to come out with a volume 2 for that one.
Okay, so it's not like the entire because there's like trying to think. Maybe did you say like 15 or 16? Because I'm thinking maybe. Well, I'm also thinking The Wolf Among Us that was based off the game.
Yeah,
There's probably close to 20, I think.
yeah. I
Uh,
think most of the formats when it comes to compendiums, they usually do it on series that has over 50 issues, for sure over 100.
yeah. Well, this is
So
like almost 20 trades that I've seen. I could be wrong, but I want to
mm,
say it's close to 20 trades.
oh, okay, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and
or
that's
that too, yeah,
quite a bit. You know.
yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
that's my take on collecting compendiums.
So my take on the actual like just talking strictly collecting side of compendiums, uh,
Hmm.
I haven't really done it. I don't know if I'll do it. I might make the exception, like you said, with a couple
Hmm.
things, but definitely I would recommend it to someone who wants to jump into a series and know that they're going to be committed to it. Like I mentioned a couple issues back that I had owned the entirety of Sandman in trade paperback. I absolutely regret selling them. I sold them for cheap. I bought them for really cheap. I definitely made money on the deal, but I sold them for cheap. But I feel like I made a really bad call. I shouldn't have sold them, you know. So in this case, I may grab if there. I don't even know if there is an existing compendium of it, but something like
Hmm.
that, maybe I would because I wouldn't want to have to spend the money again, you know, and
Yeah,
try to find every individual book because I want to say they've reprinted them multiple times, and so sometimes
in
you find
different formats.
but they look similar, like the because you know it's a very kind of unique look to them,
Yeah,
and so the art styles are the same. Sometimes the color palettes are the same that they use on the spines specifically, and so sometimes these look like they're part of the same collection, but they aren't. I could be
yeah,
wrong, but this is based off everything I've seen. Uh, they might be the same ones I had, 15 years ago or whatever it was, and I just don't remember them. But
yeah,
I'm having a hard time finding all the trades that match so I can buy them again. So what I might do is if I can find compendiums, just buy those, that might be because I know I would commit I know I'd be committed to this,
yeah,
without having to hunt down single issues and paying some insane amount of money, for original prints of them.
yeah.
Or those copies, I think those are the ones directly behind you, right? There's like 8 of them.
For which one?
Is that the Sandman right behind you?
Yeah, those are the these ones right here. They're
Yeah.
the omnibus format.
Yeah, we talked about those.
Yeah,
So I don't know, like I might do that, but if there's paperback compendiums that would be a little cheaper, I might even do that.
yeah,
But other than that, like I don't know, there's not many things I can see myself investing, from an compendium perspective.
right.
They're like I said, they're awesome for people who know they're going to delve into something, be committed, for a long run, and don't want to spend, tons of time and money tracking down, different prints of, this single issue or this trade paperback or, worrying
Yeah,
about this version of the trade, being out of print and $200, like what happened with Superior Spider-Man. Like I didn't buy number 2, and now
yeah,
that thing's like $300 or something stupid, and stuff like that. So I like that aspect of it. And again, it's a format kind of like I said with digital. It's not for me, but it definitely has a place, and I understand why people would go that way. And I recommend it again for people who want to do that.
awesome.
So,
Cool. So the next format that we'll be going over are the hardcovers, and I'm just gonna piece this together and the oversized hardcovers. So when it comes to reading hardcover books, they I definitely like the durability of the hardcovers because that hardcover cover for the book on each end just protects the collected issues or collected pages within a book very well. So if you drop it, dents the. I mean, it still hurts as on a collecting standpoint if you drop the book and dent the hardcover, but it's not gonna look as bad as a huge crease on a trade paperback. So and if you open the hardcover after that damage, the actual pages inside will most likely still be intact and not damaged. Um, they usually have a nicer cover when it comes to quality versus the trade paperback where it's just like one thin page. It's a lot thicker. Easily has a different design, different materials too that covers the entire book. Um, but comfortability wise, it's depending on how big and how thick the hardcover is or how big that book is, will determine whether it's comfortable for you to read that book holding it, or if you have to put it on a table, that way you're not carrying it the whole time. And if you're reading it like in bed and you're laying down and you have the book open right in front of you, it's a lot easier to hold, but it is gonna become a lot heavier once you're holding that book for about 5-10 minutes. Your arms are probably gonna start hurting after that. The other cool thing about these hardcovers and oversized hardcovers is also the extra content that it has. Some of them they have the extra covers that they originally printed, variant covers, so you can see the different types of art, and also any commentary or afterward towards the end of the book usually. So that's my take on reading hardcovers.
Hardcovers, I don't like them. Flat, I'm gonna be straight up. I don't really care
Yeah,
for hardcovers. Um,
yeah, I mean,
they look nice. They look really good on a shelf. I own the Killing Joke in hardcover, and I think that's the
nice.
only hardcover I actually own. My
Yeah.
main reason for not liking them is I don't look at. You want to talk about bending spines?
Mhm.
Hardcovers just kind of feel like a spine waiting to be bent. Because
Definitely.
when
Yeah.
you go to open them, they have little to no flex, and I feel like trying to open it enough to read it without breaking the spine
Hmm.
is putting too much pressure, and I'm going to break the spine, and I hate that feeling.
Yeah.
And that mainly comes from my collector side, to be honest with you, just like my
Yeah.
need for things to be in like perfect condition.
Right.
Uh, so I hate reading them. I can't enjoy reading,
Yeah.
hardcovers.
I'm
And
gonna
for
jump into that real quick.
okay,
I know we could probably cover this in another issue, but there's actually a technique to stretch out the spine of a book before really getting into it. That way, you prevent the damage on the spine.
before you get into that, bring that up with the Omnis because that's actually
That's
something
where
you
we
taught
need to
me.
bring it.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's I think it's going to be most important with the Omnis. So hold that
Yeah.
thought. And for anyone wondering, uh, when I say I don't break my spines, if you're watching our video on YouTube, I'm going to show you how I read. My books, when I read them like this. So I read one page like that and I turn
Yeah.
it this way. I do not
Oh wow.
open. Yeah.
I do the same thing.
And yeah, it looks really uncomfortable. And people always ask me how I can enjoy reading things the way that I'm holding it. And I do because I know I'm taking care of my stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't get that same feeling with the hardcover because every now and then there's times where I think this might be kind of what you mentioned with like the gutter loss, where
Mhm.
sometimes the panels go a little too far into the spine, and
Yeah. That's the gutter loss.
I make that one exception with trade paperbacks where I open it just a little bit more,
Mhm.
and because they have the flex to open without breaking the spine, but
Yeah.
with the hardcover, you don't have that flex, and I just feel like I'm gonna destroy this like $30 book, because I'm trying to like open it a little bit more to read the panel,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's not always where books, dip into the into the binding that much, or the panel dips into the binding that much that you can't really read it, but it does happen. It actually happened with the first issue of The Last Ronin. I don't know if you remember that, but The Last Ronin
Yeah.
had a couple panels that were kind of hard to read because they dug a little too far into the binding. And imagine that in hardcover. That would be a nightmare for me. So
Yeah.
I read everything in an L shape and I turn
Yeah.
it as needed. And so with hardcovers, that's really my only gripe with hardcovers from a reading standpoint.
Yeah.
I feel like
Definitely.
I
I
feel like I'm
agree.
gonna destroy them with the way I read. I can take really good care of them until I have to bend it just a little bit more to enjoy it. And I feel like the little bit of pressure I do put, I feel like I'm gonna destroy it. I could be completely wrong. They could have, more flex, but I don't feel like it does, so I just avoid them. They
Yeah.
just don't look very nice.
Uh, honestly, it's a almost a case by case basis for each book, for each hardcover anyway, because you don't know where that threshold is, where it could bend more, so you can see the panel versus that breaking point where it's gonna rip the spine.
Yeah, so if it's case by case basis, that's too much of a gamble for my
It is,
money,
yeah.
and I'm
Uh-huh.
good. So,
Yep.
no, thank you.
So going into the collecting aspect of it, for me, I it depends on the hardcover format because there's multiple different hardcovers because all the ones that we're going to be talking about after this are all hardcovers.
Well,
And
sorry to interject. Let's just
yeah,
specify that when we mean hardcovers, we're talking the equivalent of a hardcover, and I know it's not a paperback, but the
yeah,
equivalent of a trade paperback in a hardcover, where
yeah,
it's
the
just like single digit issues, like one in the case of the Killing Joke, three
mhm,
like the three Jokers, stuff like that, up to like six, seven
yeah,
issues or whatever, like six with an annual or something thrown in there.
yeah. I think the most on average that I've seen for a hardcover book or oversized hardcover is about uh anywhere as high as 10 to 12 issues
Yeah,
generally.
but that's even rare, like, that you find
Yeah,
that they like
yeah,
your
like
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle ones are like 12 or something issues, aren't they?
yeah, about 11 and 12.
Yeah, but your average hardcover that you find, I'd say that a lot of them they're just fancy trade paperbacks.
Yeah, exactly. Um, for me, collecting those hardcovers or those types, it's not really for me. I agree with Joe. It's just very it looks okay on the bookshelf, but it's just like you said, when you're cracking the spines on those, um, and just the comfortability of them, it's not ideal, and it's just honestly way more expensive for the amount of issues that you're getting.
Yeah, you're spending more for less at that point. It's one of the
Yeah.
few times that I think where you're spending more and you're not
Hmm.
getting, like more bang for your buck,
Bang
as
for
you
your
put it.
buck. Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah, you're getting six issues and you're paying $15 more. That point,
Yeah.
just buy all of that in a trade and then just grab a trade of something you've never read for $10,
Yeah.
and bam, you already got a little more right there. So,
Yeah, man. Awesome. So,
yeah.
what's your oh, that was your aspect for collecting, right?
In short, yes, just to elaborate
Yeah.
a little more, like you said, it looks great on the shelf, looks awesome,
Hmm.
really fancy and flashy, when you have them
Yeah.
all, up there, but I don't enjoy reading them, so I'm not going to enjoy
Hmm.
collecting them because also as someone who collects, I like to play with my collection.
Yeah.
Except my action figures, I do not take my action figures out of the box. Those I collect, they stay in their box
Keep it
because
sealed.
of like that. Yes, if it's not
Yeah.
sealed, it's not worth owning.
Yeah.
So, except for my big time Spider-Man, I took that out, and that's another story for another day. But I took my big
Yeah.
time Spider-Man Marvel Legends figure out, and
Yeah.
I kind of regret it, but it looks pretty cool still, and I had fun playing with it.
Nice.
Yes, I played with toys, but anyway, yeah. So keeping that up on the shelf. looks so good. And they do have tend to have like fancier covers. Sometimes they have like things printed in like a foil, you know,
Yeah,
and like all that stuff. It makes it look really nice. But like you had said, you're gonna spend a little bit more, and you're not gonna get more out of it except for that, that hard cover. And
yeah,
I mainly care about what's inside. If I care about covers, I go with variants and floppies, because it
yeah,
looks like an art piece.
yeah, exactly. All
So
right, so the next piece that we're going to be going into for formats is the omnibus format. And for me, when it comes to reading omnibus hardcover editions, uh, they are one of the most difficult to when it comes to reading. Just because the bulkiness of this, I showed you guys the trade paperback version of Infinity Gauntlet. So this one is the omnibus format
could
of
you bend
the
that?
Infinity Gauntlet.
Could you bend that the way
No,
you bent the other one? Oh, okay.
absolutely not. You could smack someone with this and they'll be knocked out for sure. One
Oh yeah.
shot, But as you can tell, specifically with the Marvel Omnibus collections, you can see, if you guys are on YouTube, you can see all the different covers that it collects. It obviously collects way more than the trade paperback version. It collects the main event, which is Infinity Gauntlet 1 through 6, and all the kind of like a prequels before it, or the stories before leading up to the Infinity Gauntlet, and all the tie-ins that go into it. So you have a more complete story when it comes to getting an omnibus format. There's so much more extra content. If you guys are on the collecting standpoint and you want to get more, just more extra content, like when it comes to commentaries, storyboards, interviews, or afterwards and stuff, or what the creative team was thinking at that certain time period in order to create that story. All that stuff is in the omnibus format. You can find so much extra stuff in these formats. And when it comes to these for reading, it's also a lot more difficult because for me, I rarely sit down on a couch and try to read it. I'm usually sitting down on a table, like on the dining table or coffee table, and having this nicely spread out evenly. That way, I reduce the amount of risk damaging the spine. And I'll eventually do a video with kind of like a tutorial of how to stretch the spine of an omnibus, because it's very important that you do that, or else you're most likely going to damage the spine and your book might end up falling apart due to that. So yeah, that's my take for reading omnibus format.
Can we do a video in the future? It'll be a really short video where you hit me in the head with an Omni and just let's see what happens.
Oh, I'm gladly.
That thing just looks like it would hurt. Like I just want to
I
see
don't know.
like
You might. I think you might actually like it, Joe.
yeah, probably kind of stupid like that. No, I just
Especially with the Infinity Gauntlet omnibus.
that would be the appropriate one to do it with.
Yeah.
Okay, so my take on Omnis, I've never owned one. I'm just gonna be straight up. I've never owned one, and I've never sat there and read one. My first time ever seeing an Omni in person, and I don't mean like sitting at the store behind a counter or up on a shelf or holding a
Yeah.
sealed one. My first time opening an Omni was actually at your house. And it was the one with the Amazing Fantasy 15, the Spider-Man one.
Oh,
That was my
nice.
first time ever actually like looking at an Omni. And I remember you showed me how
That's
to
a
bend the spine properly.
Yeah.
What was that? It's what?
Oh, I was gonna say that's a great first Omni to look
Yeah,
at
I know,
to
right?
crack open. Yeah.
And I was just like, I need to smell Amazing Fantasy 15. I don't care if it's the original one. I just need to like, it's like a rite of passage. And
Yeah.
so,
Right.
because okay, so in the past when I would see an Omni, I was just like, why the hell do I want to spend $100 on something when I can just buy like the trade,
Yeah,
for 25 or 30,
yeah,
and still get like, because the Infinity ones are huge, like even the trades like
yeah,
that when you were showing,
yep,
$25 and that thing's like what, like 500 pages, or it's probably like 300. Uh,
yeah,
yeah, so I didn't really know much about them. I was very
hmm,
ignorant to the idea of what an Omni was. And then once I learned, I was just like, man, like I really missed out. Like I could have bought a bunch of these, and I would have probably saved money, because again, this goes back with the idea of, um, the more you're spending a lot more up front, but the amount of content you're getting far
yeah,
surpasses that dollar amount you spent. And again, it comes down to binge reading. You want to really binge read, an
yeah,
Omni is the way to go. Like you
definitely.
could literally read not just an entire run, but like
Mm,
an entire arc from, point A, to Z, with all of, like the one shots, all of the annuals, all of the
yeah,
tie-ins. Sometimes you'll find like Omni Volume 1 and Volume 2, which kind of sucks, because the idea of an omnibus is supposed to be the,
the entire collected run. Yeah,
yeah, it in its entirety. But sometimes they're just too big to put in a single book, and I get that.
yeah,
But
hmm,
again, buying both of those, the amount of content you're going to get, you will just be binging for days on end, and it's amazing. They're really nice,
yeah,
but when it comes to comfortability, like I don't want to sit at a table and read. I want to sit, like, or kind of like lay on my side and flip through, or you know what I mean? Or sit with my back against the wall and just kind of relax, or lay
yeah,
down, on my stomach and flip through some pages, stuff
yeah,
like that. Or sit, with my legs crossed on my bed, flipping through. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to
yeah.
just
More of
move
like a
around.
lounging type of read
Yes.
as opposed to working and
Yeah.
reading.
When I see an Omni and how nice they are,
Yeah,
this is the best way. And you're probably gonna laugh when I explain this, because you're gonna completely understand if you haven't thought this already. It reminds me of like when you watch like a TV show, and they're in like an
mm,
old library trying to like do research on something like a crime show, and you see them
yeah,
like with like those white gloves on, like flipping through those like 2,000-year-old books. You know what I'm talking
yeah.
about?
Oh yeah,
That's what an Omni reminds me of. Like it makes me
yeah,
feel like you have to sit there at a table wearing
yeah.
gloves because you don't want to
They're like
damage this thing.
ancient spell books
Exactly.
that
Like that's
there's only one.
yeah.
There's only one
That
of each book.
that's like the impression I get out of Omnis.
Yeah,
They're ridiculous. They're
yeah.
just
They're
completely
like
ridiculous in their
they're like
size.
Bibles for
Yeah,
nerds.
exactly. But they're amazing at the same time. Like you want to talk about
Yeah,
looking good on the shelf, Omnis
yeah,
look good on the shelf.
yeah. I
Which
completely agree.
I'll get into my take on that, when I get into my collecting side of Omnis, or my
Yeah,
opinion on collecting Omnis, because I don't collect them, but I have an opinion on it. And
yeah,
some people say, hey, if you don't buy them, you don't have an opinion. No, I have an opinion. You're gonna listen.
yeah. Of course.
No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so that's my take on reading. Uncomfortable,
Awesome.
but
Yep.
love the amount of content you get for your money. Absolutely
Yeah,
amazing.
I
So,
agree.
so I'm done.
So jumping into the collecting aspect of omnibus books, they are probably one of my most favorite ways of collecting comic books because it looks amazing on the shelf. If you're trying to collect or amass a pretty decent collection of comic books, I usually like going to the omnibus route because it looks amazing on the shelf. Um, Something that you just can't do with single issues. Like if you take a single issue and you put it on your shelf, you have to have that like let me see if I can get a book here. You have to have that like facing. You can only put a few on the shelf, like facing forward like that. If you guys are on YouTube, but if you put it sideways, you can't even see like the awesome covers that you own.
And they're not
Um,
even wide enough to write, or like
yeah,
make your own little like makeshift stickers to tell you what they are.
right, exactly. So when it comes to the Omnis, they tend to have amazing spines. You can even if you have plenty of space on your shelf still, You could have the cover facing in front instead and have a line of them just covering the shelf, which is great. And you can put them in alphabetical order, event order, publishing order. They have all that information on the spines, which is great. That's kind of how I set up my collection. I do it by publisher, and yeah. I mean, I haven't tried micro organizing it where like I want to put it in alphabetical order or chronological order and whatnot. But the other thing for the collecting aspect of it is the more bang for your buck, like what Joe said. It's a huge amount of money that you gotta put up front when it comes to these omnis, especially once they go out of print. But the amount of content that you're getting is you get more bang for your buck for that. Because a lot of these issues, especially with Infinity Gauntlet, especially if the single issues are out of print, you're gonna end up paying, anywhere between $4 to over $50 on some issues if they're way out of print. And an omnibus collects all that in one book. Usually better quality, also better paper stock as well. But yeah, that is one of my preferred ways of collecting comic books. That's how I ended up collecting a lot of these, is through the omnibus format, until I started collecting single issues. But
You're welcome.
yeah, thanks, Joe. Now I can double, triple dip when it comes to, like, I haven't done the single issues for Infinity Gauntlet yet, but I'm like, I kind of feel like I should. So if I end up doing that, I'll have the single issues, the trade paperback, and the omnibus collection.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's the way to do it if you're,
Sorry, do you have the Infinity Crusade
omnibus
trade?
I don't think so. I think I was planning to get it, but I saw them which they reprinted the not even a reprint. This is the first print of the Infinity Crusade volume 3, or the third one of the Infinity Gauntlet series or saga.
You have it then, right?
The omnibus, yes, but I don't have the trade paperback version of
okay.
Infinity Gauntlet.
Is that up on the shelf right there?
Yeah, it's actually up right here.
Okay.
So this is the very first print. It took so long for this to come out. I thought they were never going to do this, but they had it. I printed out, I think, last year. So I made sure I pre-ordered this one, because once
oh, sorry, go on.
You have the trade paperback?
No, I have the single issue of that.
Oh yeah, I used to have that too. I think I ended up selling it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a foil cover.
Yeah, that's the one I have.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, like Joe said, the collection or the collecting aspect of omnis is way more money up front, but it does have a good amount of content that I really like reading into, with all those extras and like how what the creative team was going through when they were creating it and stuff like that. Like I love reading that stuff. But yeah, that's my take for omnis.
Okay, so my take that you probably don't care about, not you specifically, I'm talking to the listener because I don't collect them. I think they're awesome. Like, I love them. I just don't like the idea of spending $100 on a single item. Call me cheap if you want. I'd rather spend $100 and get 2 rare variant covers, $50 each, or 3 at 35 each and spend a few bucks extra. But that's me. I collect a lot of small things as well. But the idea of omnis, like, they're amazing. Like, they look so good on the shelf, and when you're holding this, like I like holding floppies. Okay, I like holding single issues. PG-13.
I didn't say anything. There's nothing wrong with holding floppies, Joe.
Okay, so I like holding single issues and looking at variants as like a work of art.
Yeah.
right? I think it's amazing. I know variants weren't a big thing way back in the day and stuff, but it's still nice to look at these like original issues and like,
Yeah.
one cover, that's all like these artists put everything they had into that cover, to make it stand out. And to me, like that's a work of art. I love that. But when you
Yeah.
grab an Omni and you look at it, you're looking at not just a piece of art, but you're looking at art with like how do I word it? Like somebody's entire like creative mind just
Mhm.
you know, like pulled out of their head and put into this just book, like this giant book, like their
Yeah.
heart and their soul, like just everything like in their life at this
Yeah.
point
Their blood,
dedicated.
sweat, and tears in it.
Yeah, just dedicated to this
Yeah.
one thing. And it's awesome to just look at and just think like this was years of these guys doing work and it's all just in this one little like, it's not little, but in comparison, it's this one little, book,
Yeah.
and it's like really fancy. It's nice. Like a lot of love and care is put into those. So from a collecting standpoint, I think they're amazing. I
Mhm.
really had the wrong idea about Omnis, when I first discovered them. And I kind of regret that. Like not saying I would have a ton of Omnis and I would trade, all my single issues for Omnis. I would
Mhm.
never, but I would definitely have Omnis on my shelf. I would have
Yeah.
definitely planned with the way my room is set up where I keep
Yeah.
everything with Omnis in mind. I don't have anything to support the excessive weight of multiple Omnis. And at this
Yeah.
point, I want to buy at least one right now.
Yeah.
I originally wanted it to be a War of the Realms, but I missed that.
Mhm.
I'd rather spend $100 on the Omni than $30 on the trade. I'm going to continue to
Yeah.
complain about that price, by the way. Um,
Yeah.
Not just tonight, I mean forever. Even after I
Oh
buy it,
yeah.
I'm gonna
No.
complain about it.
Even I complain about it. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh great, like they're coming out with 5 different omnis I need to get for this month. That's gonna hurt my bank for
Yeah.
sure. And
Oh
my
yeah.
my space on my shelf.
Yeah.
I need a new. I need another bookshelf.
But now, like, I don't know. Like, I didn't plan to own Omnis, and so I want to own one. And like I said, I
Yeah.
wanted to be War of the Realms. I
Yeah.
missed that, and so I'm not sure what I want my first Omni to be. But
I
as far as
already have a few ideas if
all
you
right,
don't mind me suggesting.
right after I say
So
this part, sorry, let
I'll
me
go
just
for it.
finish this
Yeah.
last part. So, whatever my first Omni is going to be, it's not going to be
Yeah.
my last one, but it's definitely
Hmm.
not going to be, and I'm hoping the start of, a massive collection. I do not have the space. Shelby would probably kill me if I started bringing, Omnis home. Not financially. I don't think she'd really
Yeah.
care. I think space wise, I can already hear her say, oh, I guess I'm not getting a computer because now we don't have anywhere for a desk,
Yeah.
because, you have 70 Omnis sitting,
Dude, you can
where
use
the
the
desk was going to be.
omnis. You can use the omnis as a desk or a
Yeah,
throne.
just stack the Omnis and put her computer on top.
Yeah.
Um, no, but that's my only really issue with collecting Omnis is um, they're
The space.
awesome. They take
Yeah.
up relatively less space than floppies,
Hmm.
but they also need their own permanent, like dedicated space because you can't just like imagine coming home and there's like 3 Omnis on your bed. Like you're not gonna go to sleep on that bed.
Yeah.
Those Omnis now live on that bed until you get up and put them away. Like you can't just
Yeah.
sleep around them. I've fallen asleep on my bed with like 2 or 3 trades, and my dog and my laptop on my bed, and I don't feel like that's taking up nearly the space that Omnis do, just because they're bulky, they're heavy, you
Yeah.
know, and I wouldn't want to risk like kicking that off the bed either.
Yeah. And you also actually need very specific types of bookshelves for if you're trying to amass a collection of omnibus
Oh, because they're heavy.
collections, because they're very heavy. And certain bookshelves, like maybe some of the IKEA bookshelves, I haven't even personally tried, but I know they're a lot thinner than these ones. I think it's the Billy bookshelves.
I have no idea.
Um, because if you have so much of that weight, especially with these heavy books, they'll end up bending the bookshelf if it's way too heavy. I forgot the name of the brand of this bookshelf that I have, but they are definitely a lot thicker than the standard bookshelves that you buy at like IKEA or Target and whatnot.
That's what I'm saying.
So
Omnis aren't just a commitment to that book; it's a commitment to your space.
yeah,
Like all my floppies are in bags and boards and in boxes, and those boxes are durable enough that I can stack multiple. In the space that it would probably take to put three Omnis side by side, I can have, three short boxes stacked.
yeah,
And it wouldn't be as like inconvenient, and the amount of issues I
right,
can have in those three boxes stacked, isn't going to be as bad. But
yeah,
um but it's still like, I don't know, it's like a give and take. Like, you got the bang for your buck,
yeah,
relatively low space for like a couple. But
mhm,
if you're into like collecting omnis,
yeah.
and like that's your preferred method of owning,
It's
like, whew, you better
it's a
invest in
huge
some
investment.
space.
Yeah,
Yeah, invest in space as well as the books themselves, because you will find
yeah.
yourself stacking them in ways that will probably like cause lasting damage to them that you're gonna regret.
Yeah, that's why I actually rearranged my bookshelf, because before I had one line of omnis, and then I was out of space, so I was stacking
Yeah, I remember
like
that.
two or three omnis on top of these, which luckily it didn't cause any damage, but if I did it for a few years, I could definitely see
They'd
lasting
start
damage
weighing
towards
on
that.
each other, right?
Yeah, so I decided to split the level of bookshelves and just stack one omni for each shelf.
Yeah.
So
So
um
that said,
oh yeah, so the
what are your
recommendation that
suggestions? Yeah.
or suggestions that I believe your first omni is gonna be is, if I have a feeling that they're gonna end up doing this, because they Marvel is notorious for making omnis for big events, and that is the King in Black.
You know, I've already considered the weight just for that. Like, I want that absolute carnage omni, and I
Yeah,
know it's not 100% like hard to find. Like, I could probably get it and overpay like by just very, very little, like maybe $20.
yeah. My
Uh,
store still has it, I think. Um,
exactly.
yeah,
Like, I can. There's an example. I can get it for cover price,
yeah,
but order it online, maybe on eBay, whatever. I might,
yeah,
find it for maybe $20 more, because it's getting a little bit harder to find. I love Absolute Carnage enough,
yeah,
but like King in Black is just so good. Like,
yeah.
and
You don't have to think for that. Like if
that
it's out, it's
if
pre-ordered.
if I don't buy an Omni by the time King in Black is announced, that's
Yeah,
the one I'm getting. No
yeah,
question. King in Black is probably most likely going to be it, unless
yeah,
something else wows me to the way that King in Black has. But
yeah,
I feel like they'll do an Omni before. Like, it took what, maybe a year for War of the Realms, or a year and a half from its
yeah.
completion
Usually,
time.
usually about a year after the event released. Like I think
Yeah,
Absolute Carnage finished sometime last year, right?
I don't know actually. 2019? 2019,
uh
I think, is when Absolute.
Possibly, like maybe at the end of that year.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's when they released Absolute Carnage by last year. So
yeah.
maybe I think that was maybe, I don't know, 6 to 8 months after the single issues
Yeah.
finished. um but the other one that I feel like you will end up getting, if it's,
Wait,
no.
can I take a guess?
Yeah,
Thor?
no.
Okay, okay, go on.
No,
I
the
just wanted
obvious
to.
answer would be Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1, with
Oh,
the
you're talking about
original,
the one
the
that
one that you
Spencer's
saw.
curtain? Oh,
No,
the
the
Amazing Fantasy.
original one. Well, yeah, exactly.
Oh, yes. If I can find that for a price that's not like 200 plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's out of print, right?
Yeah, it just because they did reprint last year, and it's currently out of print again. But I
Yeah,
think you can still find it anywhere between 120 to $140.
that's not that bad. Like
Not that
20,
bad. Yeah.
$30 more, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know about 140. I know it's only 10
Yeah.
bucks, but
Yeah.
that's almost a trade paperback.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know
Uh,
they have the second omnibus in print right now, and it's the same cover price, which is 125. But if you buy it on Amazon or other online stores, you can find it for anywhere between 70 to 100.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could probably get both for actually 200.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually might be worth it. Overpaying for one, underpaying for the other.
Yeah. It kind of balances out.
And
That's why anytime reprints are announced, I do my best to try to pre-order it. I already screwed up with one, which is the Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume 2. It was in print like just a few weeks ago, and I'm like, okay, I get paid this coming week, so I'm gonna pick up Volume 2, 3, and 4. And Volume 2 just went out of print. I'm like, damn. Yeah, so I'm like,
That's
I'm not
rough.
gonna skip out on 3 and 4, so I ended up getting those right away
Yeah.
before they go out of print. Because once those go out of print, they just skyrocket in
Yeah, but at
value.
least if you get it relatively soon after going out of print, you might just overpay a little versus
Yeah,
$300.
yeah.
You know,
I think
you
it
don't.
shot up to 200 already.
Oh, the worst part is, man, that, and I mentioned this a little bit ago, was that Superior Spider-Man trade paperback going out of print.
Complete collection, yeah.
A trade paperback going out of print
Yeah.
is like 200 plus.
Yeah, some of those trade paperbacks,
That,
like I said, start becoming a collector's
yeah.
item.
So I can only imagine what like an omni of something like that would end up being, you
Yeah.
know, if it goes out of print.
Yeah.
All right. Any other recommendations, or do you think was it just those two?
It was mainly those two. Yeah, King in
Okay.
Black, something that hasn't come out yet, and Amazing Spider-Man, something that's already out.
Okay. Oh, and I remember Jeff Lemire, Thanos Returns. That was the other one. The one I mentioned earlier that I'd read. Jeff Lemire wrote issues 1 through 12. Donny Cates does 13 through
16.
16 plus an annual, and that ties into Cosmic Ghost Rider. Not that that's relevant to what we're talking about. I just remembered it. So Thanos Returns. Finished it. Awesome. Read it. So, but that aside, so now back to Omnis. Yeah. So if I can find that Amazing Spider-Man, I'll probably grab it. If I don't, it's going to be a big toss-up between Absolute Carnage now, or waiting and hoping there's a King in Black. The only other one I think I might make the exception for would be, and I know I talk a ton about Marvel, and I'm going to change this up a bit. Dark Knight's Death Metal.
Yeah.
If they do an Omni
I'm
for
still
that,
waiting for that.
I might suck it up and just get that, because Death Metal is an awesome read. I haven't even finished it. I need to start it over, because I was reading it and I was caught up, and I started working more, and I got like kind of lost in things, and you know, like those one shots started coming out more, and then like the 7 issues ended up finishing, and I was just like, I don't even know where I'm at. I think I like read like issue 3 and like 3 or 4 of the one shots.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what even happened and what's going on anymore. So
yeah, I know they have a for Metal or Dark Knight's Metal, they do have a prelude before the main event, and then all the other one shots after the main event. So I do want to read all of that stuff before I jump into Death Metal. So that's why it's taking me a while to start reading all that.
Like Metal plus like the Harley Quinn, and I forgot what the other one was. Are you talking like you want to read all that too?
Everything, yeah.
Okay. Did you give me my Metal back?
No, I still have it.
Oh, damn. Okay.
And I'm still waiting for you to finish up Planet Hulk and World War Hulk.
In time.
Trust me, you're definitely not missing out. I mean, you're definitely missing out if you don't read it right now.
I'll get to it. Trust me.
All right. So yeah, back to the Omnis. That is probably one of my most top preferred way of collecting. So for the next format that I think I might just put these two together, because they're almost very similar. And that is the library editions by Dark Horse Comics, and the Absolute editions by DC Comics. These are generally a lot bigger. They're almost like coffee table books. They're about maybe 1 or 2 inches bigger than the omnibus format. So they're a lot bigger, but they're a little bit thinner in terms of page count. But this format is if you love looking at art, or the art pages, covers and whatnot. If you love looking at that stuff, these oversized library editions are probably the way to go, because it really just expands the this art form, and just getting a really good view of all the hard work that these artists and colorists have put on all these comic books and whatnot. So
Do you have
for
I'm sorry to cut you off. Do you have an open one, like the one that's not sealed to kind of show? Because this is actually
let
something
me
that's
see.
kind of new to me. I've never delved into
Yeah,
library editions, and so I'd
let me
like to
see if I
actually,
have an open one.
because
Yeah,
I know
sure.
you have your Hellboy, but you haven't opened those yet, have you?
No, I haven't yet. I'll open. I'll show this one off.
How
Uh,
about you open your Hellboy so you start reading it?
there's a. I could do a. I have Mass Effect that's open, and and Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Let's go with Mass Effect,
Mass Effect.
because
All right,
I
cool.
I don't care about Avatar.
All right, awesome. So, this is a comic book adaptation of the video game Mass Effect. One of my, I want to say my top 10, one of my top 10 video games of all time. So this is the book. There's the spine for
Hey,
the Dark
turn it
Horse
turn it forward again, or when you're
to the
done.
front.
That guy, I don't know who it's supposed to be, but it looks like Eric Kuman.
This guy right here.
Yes.
I can see that.
For anyone
If you
wondering,
guys
Eric
are,
Kuman is an
yeah,
old friend of ours slash coworker,
yeah, he was
and
actually one of my. We used to play in a band together.
yeah,
Once a few other band members left, he joined up, and we played for a little while before I left. And great dude. He actually started a barbecue page for grilling and whatnot on Instagram. I'll I'm trying to remember what his page was. I think it's called Grill Slingers or something like that. I'll have to double check. That way I could uh, do a shout out for him. But this is the library edition for the Mass Effect book. Let me see if I could hold up an omnibus so I can do a comparison. But this is the omnibus for
oh wow,
Marvel. Yeah, so this is the comparison of how big a library edition format is. So it's about an inch and a half bigger than the omnibus format, but definitely a little bit thinner
and
than
it's
the omnibus
paperback, right?
content. For the library edition, no,
Yeah.
this is a hardcover.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, okay, never
it's
mind.
yeah, it's hardcover. You
Okay,
can see that. And let me see if I could go to a page to show like the amazing art that it has. Um, I know you guys can't see on Spotify if we ever put this on Spotify or any other podcast channel, but on YouTube you'll be able to see all the visuals. So here's one
that's
of,
awesome.
or some of the art on it. So it looks really awesome, expanded. Definitely for reading purposes and comfortability, it's a decent combination in between hardcover format and just the convenience of being able to see a full page opened up widely, and not worrying of having to read small letters. It's all enlarged, so it's very easy to read, and the artwork just pops in every single page because of how big those panels are and
Does
whatnot.
that mean
So
I could read them in the L shape I do and not have to worry
yes,
about like the gutter loss?
yeah, yeah,
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
so for anyone wondering, like I know nothing about library editions, and him and I actually talked about this a little bit. I think last night, prior to doing the podcast, we talked a little bit about what we wanted to, like what we specifically wanted to talk about tonight. And when you mentioned library editions, I was just like, yeah, you're gonna have to educate me on this. Like
yeah.
I don't own any. I've never jumped into this. Like this is a format I'm completely unfamiliar with, kind of the way I was with Omnis a while back.
Yeah,
So
and I think I think Dark Horse is the only publisher that really does library editions.
okay.
Besides maybe actually Image Comics does a very similar format. It's let me see if I can pull one out here. Um, So this one is Black Science. I think, not sure what they call this one. Might just be a deluxe edition, but it's as big as a almost as big as a library edition. Let me see if I can compare it. But yeah, oh yeah,
Oh,
there's
that's
exact dimensions.
so it's their equivalent of a library edition.
Yeah, and I think they've only started recently doing this for specifically for Rick Remender's work.
Right. It's good to know. Those things seem pretty
Yeah.
cool. And I know you have the Hellboy stuff,
Yes.
right? So next time I'm
Yeah.
over, I'm gonna have to check those out now that I've delved
Yeah.
into Hellboy.
Yeah.
If you see him
Yeah.
missing,
So
don't
and then
ask.
I think the absolute editions for DC they're essentially about the same size. They might look a little bit bigger because usually the absolute editions they it's like these books come in a slipcase for them. So that's DC's way of the library editions. The
Is
cool
that
thing
kind
about
of
DC, what's that?
sorry to cut you off. Is that kind of like their oh my god, why am I drawing a blank? Their oh my god, what is it called? I'm drawing a blank. Doomsday Clock.
Uh-huh.
How they have the hardcovers and then they have the edition that comes with the slipcover. It's book 2, and then you
But
buy
a lot
book
bigger,
1.
yeah.
Well,
Uh-huh.
it's like a slipcover that comes with book
Yeah.
2, and it
Hmm.
has a placeholder for book 1. You take that placeholder out and you actually put the hardcover of book 1 in there. Is that kind of what you mean with
With the
with
slipcase,
the
yes.
yeah, okay. I just want to know if
Yeah.
that's like the same edition you're talking about. Since that is it's both DC and Vertigo.
Vertigo has a few absolute editions
Okay.
beforehand before it became Black Label.
Yeah. Well, because the Watchmen and that's DC and Vertigo.
I believe
Well, I'm sorry,
so.
Doomsday Clock is DC and Vertigo.
Doomsday Clock. I think so. I can't quote you on that, but I know for sure like V for Vendetta and I think the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Those are both like DC slash Vertigo. DC
Yeah.
owns Vertigo, so that's
Yeah,
why
yeah.
they ended up doing the Black Label reprints for Vertigo books.
Okay.
But when it comes to reading that stuff, I enjoy it because of the expanded artwork and less chances of a gutter loss and the ease of reading the actual words on the book.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever had
Oh,
experience in reading either
no,
format.
never. Both between the library editions and the absolute editions, I'm
Yeah,
completely oblivious on this. So you've actually taught me a little bit about them. The library
awesome.
editions, I think, have more of an appeal to me because
Yeah,
the gutter loss and then the expanded pictures and or
yeah.
expanded art. I know you said the absolutes do that too, but the fact that they're limited
Hmm.
to DC, I tend to
Yeah,
just buy like floppies from DC and trades.
yeah.
And so I'm not going to start jumping into like another format with DC, except for maybe the exception of those the Doomsday Clock ones that
Yeah.
I had mentioned. That if it's the same thing that I believe you're talking about, just because the
Well, the
the
Doomsday Clock,
trade,
it's not as big as the DC Absolutes, but the idea of having that hardcover put into a slipcase, that's what an Absolute Edition is,
yeah, and
except for
that's what it
the
is.
dimensions. Yeah,
But it holds the slipcase holds 2 hardcovers instead of 1,
yeah.
or the one I'm
Absolute
talking about.
Editions is just one. So
Okay, but
yeah,
so I might have to grab that just because it looked really nice, and I
yeah.
mean after reading The Watchmen, I want to read that.
Mhm. Now, honestly, like my recommendation for people out there, if you want to go to the through the Absolute Edition route or Library Edition or Images, I believe it's a deluxe edition, depending on who the writer is. It's I mainly get it if you really want, if you really like the art for that comic book series and you want that art expanded like really big. That's my recommendation for getting those editions, just
Okay.
to really enjoy the art and the creative team behind it. And I'm probably just I had just ordered my very first Absolute edition, and it should be coming in the mail hopefully by tomorrow. And that is the Killing Joke.
Nice. Oh, you ordered it, huh?
Yeah,
You finally got tired of me making fun of you.
yeah.
Nah, not making fun of you. I should say giving you a hard time.
I know it's been a long time coming. I know it's one of the books that I've really wanted my collection for a long time. I don't know why it took this long for me to get. So I'm finally jumping the gun and getting it just because I saw the price for it. I'm like, oh my God, that's so cheap, which was I think I paid
26 or
27,
something. Yeah.
$27 for it. So
Yeah.
for an Absolute edition.
I want to say they have that at Undercity, and hell, dude. But when next time I go to Undercity, that stimmy should be hitting the bank account. And if they have it, I might just grab that while I'm there.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna own one of the like I don't even know which printing I have, but there's like anyone wondering about the Killing Joke, they did like 700 printings of the floppy. Not really 700, but there's like 16 printings of this thing. It's the
Yeah.
exact same cover, but it's like different colors, like different shades of yellow, different shades of
Yeah.
green. Like it's frustrating to look because you're like, oh, I have like a fourth edition. You're like, oh wait, that's the wrong shade.
Yeah.
So I think I actually have like a fourth edition of it or something. I have like a fourth edition of that, and I have the hardcover of.
Yeah.
It's just that with some notes in the back
Yeah.
from. Oh my God, why am I drawing a blank on the writer?
For the Killing Joke.
Yes. Why am I drawing a blank? Oh my God.
I don't think I can help you out there
I
because
swear we
I
just
haven't
talked
read it
about
yet
this.
either. Yeah.
I keep wanting to say Jeff Johns, but that's the Three Jokers.
Yeah. That's
Ellen
the
Moore.
other thing. Oh, there you go. Is that
I was.
is that the right writer?
I'm gonna look it up. I'm like 90% sure it's Ellen Moore.
Yeah, I should probably look it up. That's the thing with us too, since we're slightly new collectors into comic books. We didn't start really delving into the creative teams and really memorizing names for writers and comic book artists till recently. But
It is Ellen Moore.
it is okay. Good.
Yes.
Nice. I think I was about to order another book too that had just went out of print, and I think I should jump on it before it starts going up in value, which is Absolute Swamp Thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's another like big book that Alan Moore wrote, and I'm very interested in getting that and checking it out because so many collectors out there have been recommending to get that,
And
especially in Absolute format.
when I was at Undercity a few days ago, because I
Yeah.
went to go pick up my pool and they didn't
Mhm.
have it. I'm not saying that and bad mouthing them. So if by any chance they're listening, I'm not upset. I'm not mad. I don't care. I don't mind driving there and just hanging out and talking for a few minutes and grabbing some trades
Yeah.
or whatever. But so I was looking through their trades and I grabbed two things that day. I grabbed East of West and
Oh, nice.
so good, by the way. So
I haven't
good.
started reading it. I think I tried starting reading it. I read the first issue and then I don't know why I don't think I was in the right mood for it for a Western. So I dropped it and
so good.
I know it's good. I have all three deluxe editions right here.
Like
yeah.
I was hesitant to buy it because I didn't know anything about it. And
I'm surprised you got it. What's
I asked
you ended up asking
the guy who works at Undercity,
Yeah.
and he said, well, it's post-apocalyptic. Had me sold. I love post-apocalyptic.
Dude, this is nothing but post-apocalyptic nowadays.
Yeah, I know, but I love it. Give me as much as you can.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then he goes, and he said something along the lines of like, it's like the world's run by the Four Horsemen, and I was like, cool, say no more.
Yeah, that's
Like,
exactly why I bought it.
Post-apocalyptic,
4 Horsemen,
run by the Four
I'll
Horsemen.
Take it. Yeah.
Like, just grab every trade off the shelf and just throw it in a bag. And
it's by Jonathan Hickman too, so
yeah. So great writing. But anyway, so I grabbed that and I grabbed I apologize if I'm saying her name incorrectly, but I think it's like Mirka and Dolfo.
Sounds
It's
right.
just called Mercy, but it's listed as Merca and Alfo's Mercy. I
Hmm.
originally picked up a black and white variant that I just saw sitting on a shelf one day because, as we had mentioned before, some of these covers are just like art pieces. The art for this was incredible. I wish I had it in my hands right now to just show you.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, like if you look up the other covers, you're gonna be like, oh, this is really nice. None of them compare to this cover that I grabbed. It was like issue like 5 or something. Like I don't even like
Yeah.
I'd never even heard of it, never even read it. I was like drawn to this cover because it looked so amazing. And it was in completely black and white and it looked so good. Knew nothing about
Nice.
it. So I grabbed it and I saw the trade on the shelf. So I grabbed it that day because I was like, well, I'm not going to leave empty handed.
Yeah.
So I grabbed it, flipped it over, saw it was like a complete collection. Like I don't have to buy volume 2, I don't have to, worry. Like it's everything's in this one like $20 trade. And
Yeah.
it's just like set in like an 18th century like time period. Like, it's like a dark like murder story kind of thing. And I was like, this seems cool. Don't know much about it. Not gonna sit here and pretend that I know a lot, but it just
Yeah.
seemed like something cool. Figured because I had bought the individual issue and I
Yeah.
had no idea what I was talking about, I would at least give the trade a shot, for $20. I grabbed it. I haven't started it yet, but I did start East of West, and my
Nice.
God,
Are you
East
gonna
of
end up getting the entire collection?
yes, without a doubt.
Are you planning to get the deluxe editions for it? Because
No, I
Image has them right now in stock. So, and they're wonderful collections.
how much are those cover price?
Cover price it is 50, but you definitely can find it a lot cheaper on Amazon. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, each individual is like $15, and there's only 10 of them, so it actually cost me about the same. Probably ran me close to what,
yeah,
150.
150.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I might just do that since I already own the first trade. But
Well,
my
if
God,
it's only
Chris.
the first trade, you gotta get these deluxe editions because they come up with all the extra artwork and whatnot, sketches, even scripts of
So
the
what
original stuff.
what you're telling me to do is double dip,
Tripled it.
triple dip. So buy all the
Yeah,
trades and all the collected editions,
yeah, and eventually just get all the single issues
all the
too.
single issues. Yeah. Like here's
Yeah,
my East of West collection. It cost me 10 grand.
yeah,
Uh, but no, it's so good though. Like so good.
yeah,
I'm not gonna sit here and talk about this like I talk about Middle West
yeah,
because I haven't read enough. But at the same time, where I'm at in East of West, I had already realized how much I love Middle West.
yeah,
But to be fair, I love Scotty Young, so there was something else that was selling that to me. It
yeah,
was like an artist I love. I try to collect every variant that I can of Scotty Young.
yeah,
So going into that, I had high hopes. I was already like super excited for it with East of
yeah,
West. It was just two things that had me sold to give it a shot. So
yeah.
far, I love it. Not as fanatical the way I felt about Middle West, but I feel like the more I read, the more I'm gonna get like that. So from a recommendation from me to you, read those as soon as you can.
Oh yeah,
And
on my huge backlog of comic books to read for
yeah,
sure.
but
Um,
like put
yeah,
them
I think
higher up on the list now.
yeah, for sure. Well, especially since I know that you're reading it, and it might be another episode that we could bring it into.
Definitely. Uh,
So
which you also got to read Hellboy because we have to have our boringest issue of all time.
yeah, for sure, I'll definitely add that to the list. If
I'm
you're
not bad
recommending
mouthing
that to
Hellboy.
if you're recommending that to me and raising it on the list, I will raise you as well for Invincible. That needs to be on the top of your list, especially since the animated series is coming out soon. So
Yeah,
whenever
yeah.
you get a chance, like I said, they have the first like maybe 8 volumes or so on
Of
comiXalliance for
comiXology.
free. So you
Well,
don't
you
even
know how
have
I
to
am.
spend any money at first.
I still prefer my paper versions. So I'll make you
Oh
a
yeah, for
deal.
sure.
It's
Yeah.
recorded and it's going posted, and people are gonna hear this. I'll
Yeah,
buy the first.
you guys heard it first.
I'll buy the first book of Invincible. Okay.
Okay.
Trade number
The
one.
compendium.
Maybe I'll dish out the money for the compendium, whatever. But I'll read the first 6 issues. But you have to read the first 6 issues of East of West
Deal.
immediately. Like as soon as I buy Invincible, we both stop what we're reading and we read those. At least the first
All
6
right.
issues. Deal?
You gotta show it on the show to make it for real.
Sounds good. All right,
Yeah,
because
sounds like a deal.
Invincible, between what you've talked about and what the
Yeah.
comics podcast guys have talked about,
Uh,
um, definitely something, it's up there that I'm interested in now. I've heard
yeah.
enough about it. And before we end this, I actually
Mhm.
want to again give them a big shout out. They gave us a huge shout out the other day on their last issue or their last episode,
Yeah.
and just want to send some love to them. Remember their comics podcast. Our names are almost identical, so
With the
don't.
X.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
call themselves actually just comics, I believe, but
Yeah.
it's you look them up under comics podcasts. Great group of people, always entertaining to listen to them talk. They talk more about comics, like I'm sorry, movies related to comics and stuff like that. More
Yeah.
along the lines of those where Chris and I talk more about, actually reading like, you know, books, comics. So, and like the collecting side of it. But
Yeah. And I definitely enjoy the banter that they have between
yes,
each other. It's very
yeah,
entertaining.
like I drive to work listening to them and I find myself laughing, and just wondering if people are like looking at me, wondering I'm sitting in my car by myself, like cracking up,
Oh yeah.
because their banter is really good. Like, they have a really good energy together, and I can't say enough good about them. So I hope anybody listening here who doesn't know about them will definitely check them out.
Yeah. Please check them out, guys. To support all the comics podcasts and all the other comics podcasts out there.
Yep. And there's a lot, I listen to some from some big names out there, some
Yeah.
guys who have like written, or I'm sorry, who like interview guys who have like written for like DC and Image and, stuff like that. And it's cool
Mhm.
listening to those, but, I really like to support like the small guys too, and, they're right there with us. They got to start ahead of us by months, but definitely check them out.
Awesome.
So, what do you
So
think? Should we be wrapping this up now?
yeah,
We're
we'll
well
definitely
over
wrap
the
this
two
up.
hour mark.
So yeah, yeah, I told you we'll go over the 1 hour mark for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't sure if
Yeah,
this was going to be enough to go over the 1 hour mark, but we
yeah,
actually, this is our longest issue so far.
yep, definitely. I hope you guys, for those of you who stayed tuned till the end, I applaud you guys. This was a very long podcast and issue for our collection so far. And if you did, thank you so much for your support. If you guys want to support us even more, feel free to follow us on Instagram. It's COMIXALLIANCE. That is comiXalliance. And if you guys are found some interesting topics in this issue, just feel free to comment down below, and we'll definitely communicate with you guys. So that's it. I guess we'll see you guys on the next issue next Sunday.
One thing I'm going to say before we go, maybe after a couple years, we're going to compile all of these issues into a giant omnibus. I'm just kidding,
That
but we
would
should.
be amazing. I don't know how we would do that, but that would be great.
All right, guys, have a good night. Thank you for spending some time listening to us just talk about nonsense. All right, have a good night.